Hey y'all, welcome back to the cookie jar. Today we are doing the 12th recipe from the Peach Cobbler Murder. It is the chocolate almond toast. In here. To me, this is like a biscotti. It even has a little note at the back that says these are great dunking cookies. If you want to make them look like biscotti, just dip the tops in melted chips. I use milk chocolate, set them on a piece of wax paper and refrigerate them to set the chocolate. You're gonna get about approximately 4 dozen depending on cookie size. So I've tried to make biscotti before. I don't know if I overmix them or if I've never really had a good recipe. They always end up really, really hard. So I'm hoping today that doesn't happen. But for this recipe, we need to preheat the oven to 350, 1.5 cups melted butter, 3 sticks, 1 cup cocoa powder, unsweetened, 2.5 cups brown sugar, 5 large eggs beaten, just whip them up in a glass with a fork, 4 teaspoons of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of salt, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, 1 cup slivered almond, and 6 cups flour not sifted. Now, I'll tell you, I had some issues with that flour because I'm not good at keeping track of how many things. So I was like, I'm gonna do this by grams. And I tried to add up the grams and I got like 1,300 or something. And I scooped out like 6 cups. So I'm pretty sure I scooped 6. It was nowhere near that number. And I'm like, So I went to Google. I'm like, Google, how many grams is 6 cups of flour? And they gave me like some 800 number. And I'm like, So I recounted. And it still wasn't right and had way more flour than I had originally done. And I was very confused. So eventually I just went with the grams Google said and hoped it was right. I have no idea. But we're basically mixing this up and then we're going to put it on cookie sheets with non-stick cooking spray. And it says to form them into 5 loaves, 1 inch high, 7 to 8 inches long, and 3 to 4 inches wide. And then it says place 2 loaves on 1 cookie sheet and 3 loaves on the other. Okay, so after you form them, you put them in the oven for 350 for 35 minutes. And then you take the loaves out and let them sit for 10 minutes. And then you put them on a wire rack for 5 minutes. And then you slice them into 3/4 inch pieces with a sharp knife. The ends don't need more baking. Save them to dunk in your coffee while the rest are baking. And then you put them back on greased cookie sheets for 5 minutes, flip them over and bake for an additional 10 minutes, and then let them cool for 5 minutes. It's a lot of baking, cutting, and rebaking. We will figure it out, and I will see y'all in the kitchen where everything's laid out. Here is everything we're going to need today. Okay, so to make the second part of this easier, I took some wax paper and I measured it out. This first one is the 7 by 3, and then this outer one is the 8 by 4. I kind of made 2 of them because the sheet was long enough that I had pulled off. So hopefully that makes shaping them a little bit easier since I'm really bad at trying to make things. Okay, so we have our melted butter, and we are going to add to this the 1 cup of cocoa powder, now I'm going to add the 5 eggs, the 4 teaspoons of baking soda, turn that down to stir, the 1 teaspoon of salt, two teaspoons of vanilla, the 1 cup of slivered almonds, Now it says we're going to add the 6 cups of flour, half a cup at a time. I'm not sure how much these are going to move, but I'm trying to, because it's supposed to be 3 on one tray and 2 on the other, so I'm trying to get it somewhat evenly spaced. I don't know how well of a job I'm doing, but I'm trying. I tried to do the math on this, but I don't know if it came out right. So that seems like a lot more dough to be divided into 2 than there should be. $443. Woohoo! I mathed right. That almost never happens. Thank you, Google. All right. So each one of these 5 blocks is 443 grams. And I did the 8x4. I have no idea if they're an inch high, but I would assume that if they are all equal, so they're all 5, are the exact same weight, and all 5 were shaped exactly to the same mold thing I have, hopefully they're all the same height. Got these 2 and these 3. Now they'll go in the oven for 35 minutes, and they'll cool on the sheets for 10, and then they sit on a wire rack for 5. All right, so I'm gonna put them in for 17 minutes, and then I'm gonna rotate them from top to bottom because they're both it doesn't say to bake them separate. So yeah, I'm gonna put them in for 17, and then I'll flip them, and hopefully that'll get them to cook even. Yeah. Okay, so they've sat for 10 on the tray, they've sat for 5 on the wire racks. These are about what we came out with, so they did spread quite a bit. So now it says we want to cut them into 3/4 inch pieces, which is this big, I measured, with a sharp knife. And it says the end pieces don't need more baking, save them to dunk in your coffee. And then to put them on the sprayed sheet. Here is what we got. Ooh. So it says to put these back on the trays, cut side up. These go back in the oven for 5 minutes, and then we'll flip them, and when I flip them, I'll switch the trays around. I have to remember to add 10 to the final count. I guess I could have just counted it, but I completely forgot. But there's 10 right there. So now it wants us to flip them. Somewhere along the way, I learned that biscotti, oops, that one broke, was somehow meant twice baked. I can't remember exactly. It was a long time ago that I heard this somewhere. But, I mean, these are more like 3 times baked. There's the original loaf, and then twice for each cut side, or once for each cut side. I would just like to point out. Woohoo, last one. All right, so back in the oven they go for 10 minutes. So these are what came out. There are 49 of those, and then 10 of the little end pieces. Here. I definitely think this would go really good dipped in coffee. Would enhance those flavors. It has it's not overly chocolatey, but that is obviously the primary flavor you get out of it. The almonds have kind of toasted a little bit, so there's a little bit of that. But overall, by itself, it's okay. But I bet dipped in coffee would be really good. Next week, we will be finishing the Peach Cobbler Murder. The last one is the Chocolate Overload Cookie Bars. So, if you are interested in seeing those, join us next week. I hope you lovelies have a good one. Bye. I just want a quick little side bit here. The biscotti, the chocolate almond toast, I did that last week. And it's okay by itself. It's not the best thing in the world, but you dunk that in your coffee, your hot coffee. Oh my God, it is perfect. I eat them every morning dipped in my coffee right now. Although it says to put melted chocolate on them, but I don't see, if you put the melted chocolate on it, it's not going to absorb into the cookie and make it magic. So I personally did not do that. I don't think that would at all. It might look nice, but it would let the coffee soak into the cookie and therefore would not be functional, my opinion. But seriously, if you make these, put them in your coffee. Put them in your coffee.